So it's interesting because a lot of you ask me if you need to be an extrovert in order to become a good BA. And I would say the answer is no. But one thing that I want you to remember if you want to be a good business analyst or if you want to just be good at what you do in general is you have to practice. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So here are some interesting facts for you to consider. Did you know that there are 11 million meetings that are held every single day? And on average, employees spend or attend 64 meetings per month. And the scary part is this is only in the United States. But based on the articles that I recently read, I was kind of shocked by how much time we spend on meeting. It gets worse as you go up the corporate ladder. So if you're a senior leader, you're going to most likely spend half of your time in meetings. So that could mean that you could spend full 2 to 3 days of any given week just attending meetings. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about meetings in today's video is because I've attended a lot of meetings myself. For the last 6 years that I've spent working in corporate environment, I've worked in different industries and in different companies, and universally, meetings are a big part of your day-to-day life in any corporate environment. In my experience, the bigger the organization, there tends to be more meetings. And I'm not sure if it's because bigger companies have more structure and processes in place. And I'm not gonna lie, a few of them I've attended were very good, exceptionally good in terms of timing, the length, capturing people's attention, and capturing all the takeaways and engaging key stakeholders. But most of the meetings that I've attended were honestly okay at best, and some of them were really bad to the point where I was daydreaming about what I'm gonna have for dinner. I was thinking about what I'm gonna do after work, and some of the meetings I had no idea why I was there. Like, why am I here? What value am I bringing to this meeting? Absolutely nothing. So I wanted to share some tips and tricks that I've learned and accumulated over the years on how to become better at managing and leading meetings if you're hosting a meeting, versus if you've been invited to attend a meeting, then you have to think about what are some of the things that I can do to bring to this meeting. And if you believe that you don't have much value, it's okay to reject the meeting request or decline the meeting request. It is totally acceptable. And I'm gonna share some examples of what I personally do when I do decline these meetings. So if you want to learn more about some of these tips and tricks, then just keep on watching. First and foremost, when I host meetings, so I'm putting on a hat thinking from somebody who's organizing the meeting. When I host meetings, I always try to think about what are the goals and objectives of this meeting? What exactly am I trying to accomplish from having this meeting? The reason why I think about these things is because my stakeholders or people that I'm going to invite in this meeting are going to be different. For example, if I am hosting this meeting because we're trying to sign off and finalize a business requirement that requires managers' input, then I definitely know that the goal is to make a decision on business requirements or to finalize a business requirement. So that's the goal that I'm going to state as part of my meeting agenda. Next, then I think about who needs to be in that meeting. Who needs to come to this meeting in order to help my goal or objective to be accomplished for this particular meeting. So this is the reason why the goal is so important, because if you are trying to help the business to move forward by making a decision, then you really have to have the managers from different departments, and you need to have the key stakeholders who have the power to actually sign off on your requirements. You can't have everybody just come to the meeting and sit there and listen, because if they are not contributing to a certain degree, then it really is not worth having somebody there. So for example, if you want to help the business to make a decision, then it'll most likely be managers who need to get involved in order to say, yes, I understand that this is how the change is going to impact our business process, and I know that we need to, make certain business decisions in order to accommodate that. But whereas if you wanted to have a meeting because you are facilitating workshops, or if you want to learn more about the business operations, then you can always ask managers to appoint 1 or 2 employees that you can follow up with, that you can invite to the meeting too, so then you can have that conversation. So on my meeting invite, I always have the goal or objectives of the meeting as a first line. I always try to find and add a couple of reference materials such as PowerPoint deck or Word document. If you're just going over some documents, like I always try to find reference points, or even emails. I attach emails that are related to the topic, so then people can have a look and they can anticipate what kind of discussion is going to take place in this particular meeting. You can also review the reference materials, so then they have an idea as to what exactly they need to bring to the table when they come to this meeting. I don't do this all the time. I would add a blurb about, please review the following materials before, because we have a lot of topics to cover in this meeting. So what that does is it kind of sets the expectation that you as a meeting organizer really expects people to come prepared to the meeting by reviewing all the materials that they need to learn and understand before the meeting. So sometimes I do this with external vendors because we have no working relationship, so they don't really know how we do business, and so sometimes it's good to have that kind of an expectation, so then it can facilitate meetings to run smoothly, and then so that you don't have to go through all the background information all over again. Also, what I do is I try to identify all the bullet points of agenda items or discussion points, and then I also let them know. So if I need somebody else's input or analysis, I send that list to that person in advance, so then they can actually be prepared as well. I always don't like ambushing people or not giving them a chance to look at things before the meeting. So I kind of, sometimes send them a quick message, or just follow up by saying, hey, like we have a meeting next Wednesday. It'd be really great if you can talk to us about this specific bullet point. Can you please confirm that you can do some analysis beforehand? So that's what I always try to do before meeting, is to really engage the stakeholders, so then they come to the meeting prepared. Another important tip, if you are hosting a virtual meeting, is to share your screen. It is already hard when you're having or hosting a virtual meeting, but if you don't have anything on the screen, it's so easy for people to get distracted. At least that was the case for me. So what I always try to do is I try to share my screen, and I pull up the meeting goal and objectives as well as the agenda items that I've sent out, and then I just share that particular screen. So first, we would still be on track and have all the discussion in the order of priority, but at the same time, that gives me an opportunity to leverage that meeting agenda and then take notes. So what I do is I normally let other people talk and have discussion, and while they're having a discussion, I would be busy typing notes. What normally happens is that I can easily validate my assumptions or my notes are correct if everybody can see it, right? So that's another advantage of sharing your screen, is really you're taking notes and you can quickly validate from all the stakeholders that what you've captured is correct. Nowadays, I mostly use Google Meet, but I've used Office Communicator and WebEx in the past, so I'm curious to know, are there any other technologies or tools that you've used for sharing screens? If so, then let me know in the comments below. I love to know. When you're hosting the meeting, try to be the first try to get there first so then you can greet other people as they join your call. So that's what I always do. Most of my teams are in different geographical locations in different cities. So I try to be the first one to be there so then I can greet people as they join the conference bridge. And it's been very effective. And normally what I try to do is I try to start just light-hearted conversation topics, and by making small talk and asking them about their weekends or weekend plans or about weather. So I try to have this sort of like an icebreaker at the beginning of the meeting while we're waiting for everybody else to join the call. And it's only about a couple minutes, but it's very effective in breaking that awkward silence when nobody's talking, everybody's on mute and just typing away. So I personally don't like that. I often start off the meeting by stating the goal, reminding everyone exactly why we're gathered around here today. And I also go through the agenda items, and then I try to list them in the list of priority, as I mentioned before. And this will help them to understand, okay, we have 5 items that we need to cover within an hour. So, it helps me to understand and think about how much time to allocate per topic as well. So it's interesting because a lot of you ask me if you need to be an extrovert in order to become a good BA. And I would say the answer is no. But one thing that I want you to remember if you want to be a good business analyst, or if you want to just be good at what you do in general, is you have to practice active listening, meaning you have to really focus your attention and think about what that person is saying and what kind of impact it might have on your line of business. So oftentimes I know it is super easy to get distracted, and I am very guilty of it, because you can start to daydream about what you're going to have for lunch, if the meeting is right before lunch, and you can start thinking about whether or not you're going to go to the gym that day, or what you're going to do for your weekend. So I know that it is so easy for your thoughts to start drifting away and start thinking about all these other things that are popping in your head, but it is so critical to say no to those thoughts, or to at least acknowledge them, but let them go quickly, so then you can really shift your focus on the meeting. So I think it's really easy to forget to listen, to really actively listen, because there are just so many distractions these days, right? But I would strongly encourage you, if you want to become a really good BA, then a part of the requirement is for you to take really good notes and to become a really great listener. Because by actively listening, you're going to be able to understand exactly what your customers are looking for and what your customer really needs. So if you're not even paying attention during the meetings, then it's going to be really hard to capture those business requirements or to have an understanding of what their business processes are like. So you don't have to be an extrovert in order to become a great BA, but you do have to be a really great listener if you want to become really good at what you do. Last but not least, I want to emphasize the importance of doing a time check. So oftentimes meetings go over time and there's just too many topics and not enough time to discuss everything that you have in your agenda item. It is totally fine. So if I'm hosting a meeting, I'm very conscious of time. So about 5 minutes before the end of meeting, I always try to see how many items we covered so far and how many items are left to have further discussion. So if there is just one item that's left, then what I normally do is I ask people, well, is it okay if we take extra 5 to 10 minutes to have discussion so that we don't need to have a follow-up meeting? And ask if people can stay behind for extra 5 to 10 minutes. If not, then if there's more items to discuss, then usually what I do is to set up a follow-up meeting. I always try to do it within the same week so that we don't forget about a lot of the information that we discussed in the first meeting. It's super important for you to be mindful and to be respectful of other people's time, because I was in positions before where my other meetings ran late, so I ended up being late for the following meetings, and sometimes you just don't want to put people in that situations where they're running from one meeting to another. So now let's talk about the other side of the coin, which is if you are on the receiving end of a meeting invitation and you notice that there's no meeting goals or objectives and it's not clear to you what exactly the agenda items are, it's a good idea to follow up and say, hey, I noticed that we don't have the meeting agenda for meeting X. When do you think we can get the meeting agenda item, right? So just sending a quick follow-up usually helps, and to kind of let the meeting organizer know that you're looking for that meeting agenda. And if you do get them, then please review them. I think it's very effective when everybody comes to the meeting prepared and after reviewing the notes, because you don't have to then go back and, let somebody else know the background information that everybody else does, right? So it's always a great idea, if you do have materials that you need to review that the meeting organizer has sent out, then to review them. And on the other hand, if the meeting organizer is not able to give you enough information, or if you don't think that you can really make much of a contribution to this meeting, then I think it would be a great idea for you to have a conversation, or it's okay for you to actually decline the meeting request, but it's very important for you to explain as to why you've declined the meeting. Let's say, for example, I got a meeting invitation from Heather explaining that we need to make a decision about our branding policy for this new company that we just acquired. Personally, I don't know anything about branding, I don't know anything about branding policy, and I have no power to make that decision. So, I would politely decline the meeting request and say, hi Heather, I just wanted to let you know that I don't think this is my area of expertise. If there's any specific information or input that you require from me, then please feel free to reach out. So that's how I would normally go about if I feel like the meeting is not relevant or is not applicable. I would, say, sorry, I can't make it, but this is the reason why. And normally it's been well received. So that's what I would do in situations if you feel like you're being invited, but you're not really sure what your contribution to the meeting is. Another suggestion is, if your whole team is invited to this meeting and you're not really sure what kind of values you can bring to the table, then you can feel free to ask your boss or your supervisor and say, hey, I'm not sure exactly what kind of values I can bring to this table for this meeting, then can you please let me know how I should be prepared for the meeting? Or do you think there is value for me to attend this meeting? Always don't forget to decline the meeting and explain the why, so then there's no misunderstanding. So that's it for today's video. I know there are a lot of us out there attending meetings day in and day out. I hope you found this information useful, and let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I'll see you guys in the next video.